All right, everybody, how you all doing today? Glad you have come to check us out for this week in supervision. And I'm gonna let you know ahead of time, this is probably going to be a bit choppy, because I have got an appointment coming up, and it's a lot that I want to cover on this that I'm really upset that I don't have enough time to do it. But we're going to talk about how you help supervisees with diagnosis, how you help them to work with individuals who have had some problems with trauma. Trauma is always very relevant to what our individuals, the folks that come into counseling, experience. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Any Law and Order fans, we drafted a clip or actually some video from Law and Order, and it's just a really great, like, man, ooh, I wish I had time to kind of just offer this to you, but I think it's an awesome thing that you could share with your groups. I'll see if I could figure out the episode. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I'm already wasting time. But yeah, so we got some stuff. We want to help y'all with diagnosis. What happens when you get stuck with a client? Like, because sometimes we bring them into the place to where the trauma is, but then we can't get them out because they're overwhelmed. We're going to see a demonstration of this in this video if we could get to it. But I just got a few minutes, so we're gonna jump right on into what we're trying to do here, and that's my group. Um, if you're not a part of Social Workers Alabama, please join. So I wanted to also let you all know about the training in March, the social work supervisor training. Please come and attend March 25th and 26th. We have awesome speakers each time. You'll love it. We get great reviews. We've got great reviews. Thank you all for that on that. Free training that we have. And this one, I've got to get some more marketing out to make sure everybody, and these things, you want to book as soon as possible because Eventbrite has changed some of the rules, and it's just not just that, just trying to we want to make sure we get your CUs back on time, and we're shortage on personnel, so we're usually maxing out at 100, at least for now. We want to stretch that out, but come and check us out with this training: life coaching for social workers, empowerment and self-care. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk to Patricia. Dr. Meredith Lewis booked this for us, and we're so happy to have her. Me and Patricia have had an ongoing relationship, and I appreciate her speaking for us. So it's going to be an exciting event. Also, we have the DSM training, the self-pace. Check us out. We can get that information to you. DM me if you need it, if you don't already have access. And then we thank you all for the request, because we were going to wait till June, but we got a number of requests for the DSM-5 TR training. So we are going to have one. We had a change in speakers, so we were going to delay, but people were requesting, and so we're going to have it on April 30th, Tuesday. We had an error on that initially. Check us out on that. Okay, so let's get to the work here. We only got a few minutes. All right. And so what happens is that often with my supervisees, what I'll do is again ask test questions. And if I was just to put it out there, female, um, homeless female, bisexual, that should just ring a bell, hopefully, if we have certain information. Again, we don't want to get into making assumptions about people, like a number of African Americans come from single parent. So I don't like an assumption that everybody's come from single parent if they're African American. But there are some things that we do need to be aware of, because maybe that impacts some things relative to how you do your assessment. Same thing here. Don't want to be biased. We want to be aware. And so if that, I want to just ask you if that rings a bell with you, if anything shoots off, okay, when I mention this. If it doesn't, I'll tell you. It's interesting because a lot of these programs are based on real life stuff. And I did my research when I looked at it. And interesting enough, 90%, according to the National Network of End Domestic Violence reports, 90% of women who are homeless have experienced severe physical or sexual abuse at some point in their lives. So that's 90%. On top of that, if you 44% of lesbian women have experienced sexual intimate partner abuse. Uh, uh, you know, 75% of bisexual women report being victimized. So these are interesting stats that there may be some type of abuse that we just want to be aware of, not to assume, but in this population. Okay, so that was an interesting thing. I challenged the group. Now, this particular case that we're looking at, right? If I could track it down, this particular case that we're looking at, it is a, oh boy, I hope I can get it. It is a case of a person who has had issues with identity. Okay, so some of what we discussed is like if you have a client who has had a traumatic situation, or let's just say they haven't had a traumatic situation, but in this case, the person did. It starts off that the person apparently may have been raped. They weren't able to identify. You have to watch the show, but they come in. The police are there. She's been beat up. She has a blood alcohol level of 0.15 or something like that. So, and it's showing that there has been a sexual interaction. Okay, so what they find down the road is that the person that she's identifying herself as is not who she has been known to be. They track down and find some people from college. They know her as Sophie. She goes by Grace. Okay. Well, history ends up showing there was okay, so if someone is in this situation to where in this, to where they're not identified as themselves, we want to run back and try to analyze like what happens in these situations when people separate from themselves. I gotta do this real quick. What happens when they separate from themselves? What's generally going on? Okay, I don't have time to cover it, but generally this is a situation we have to rule out that there's been some level of trauma. Okay, because with trauma we have the tendency to dissociate. In this case, the diagnosis ends up being dissociative. I don't even want to say it, but we'll go down and see if we get into it, and see if you know what it is. But trauma causes individuals to go in this direction. But there's so many things that I will want to get into with this case, and it's some really good acting, trigger warning, sexual abuse type stuff being discussed here. We're gonna put it on fast. Because I'm already going to be a little bit late for my appointment, but I want to make sure that we get this in because I get just so excited about because in it the group just love it because it really challenges
Sophie,
the
it's
mind.
okay.
So,
No, it's not.
Sophie, I mean,
He said if I got below a B, then he was going to send me to SUNY.
Sophie, parents say a lot of stupid things, right? And they try to scare you because they want you to stay on the right road. But you want to know who's really scared? We are.
You're a mom?
I
So
am.
she's
and I
on the
keep telling
college
myself
campus.
It's gonna get easier, and that one day I'm gonna.
They're trying to get her to. They're trying to get her to remember.
Reasoning with a 6-year-old.
Trying to get her to remember where the trauma happened because she is not identifying as being who she is. And so the investigators are like, okay, so if you had a client like that, how would you investigate? Okay, how do we get back to understanding what the situation is, how this association occurred?
Oh my God.
What?
That's Professor Adams' office.
Okay, well, let's go in there.
I don't want to go. I don't want to see him.
Hey, Sophie. I'm with you. Right by your side the whole time.
Okay.
There's nobody in here.
It's exactly the same.
Tenure means never having to change.
It was there. I came in before class to see if I could get extra credit. He told me he believed in sex for grades. I thought he was joking. I laughed, but he wasn't joking. He grabbed me from the back of the head and he shoved me down on the couch. I had a pen in my pocket and it jabbed me in the side of the leg until it broke. I still have the scar. I tried to scream, covered my mouth. I tried to fight him off, but I couldn't. I tried to.
Sophie,
I tried to fight him off, but
Sophie,
I couldn't.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Who's gonna believe me?
I do. I believe you.
What can I do now?
We're gonna find and confront the bastard who did this to you.
Excuse me? What are you doing in my office?
Your office. I thought this was Professor Adams.
Logan Adams died in March.
No.
Heart attack. I took over his position in August.
I want to die.
I'm so sorry, Sophie. I can't promise that I can take the pain away, but what I can promise you is I will do everything I can to help you.
Don't touch me.
Look, I know that you're feeling...
You don't know anything.
Sophie, please.
Stop calling me. You told me that I would be better if I knew.
So I'm gonna say one thing. So, like as therapists, many times when there has been trauma, the evidence-based therapy suggests that evidence-based information uh, suggests that we many times do regressive type of therapy. So a lot of times we have to go into the past because that's just how it works, right? The problem is that a lot of times, whether it's through a trauma like this where someone's dissociating or something like that, the problem is that when we take them back to the trauma, you've got to be prepared to work them through it. And there's a lot of strategy to that. I've had that go bad like twice. Okay. And so what do you do to get them? Okay. Because the whole thing, like if you're with people who have alcohol addictions and things like that and drug addictions, like if you get them off the drugs, that's one thing. Okay. But the problem is once they get off the drugs, how are you going to deal with the fact that they have all these thoughts coming back that was the reason why they got on the drug. So in a sense, it was an escape. Okay, we find different ways, whether it's a straight escape in the form of drugs and alcohol, sex, anything that can distract us. We find escape there. Sometimes we find escape through something like what we see here. I'm going to call it dissociative fugue. Or I'm not saying it right. I'm sorry. Sometimes we might find escape there because what is happening is that the person, we have to understand when we don't really know what's going on, the reason that this has happened because something happened in this person's world that was too difficult for them to deal with. This is actually what happens with just basic stuff like defense mechanisms, right? So I project because I want to escape the feeling of the pain, knowing that you're calling me a liar and I don't want to deal with it because I know I'm a liar. So then I start projecting and calling you a liar. So this is kind of how the mind works. It takes different mechanisms or it uses different mechanisms to help to escape from stressful situations. And with some people, this is very radical. Now, what I have observed is that with somebody like Sophie Grace, is that if you go that far, a lot of times there has been hidden trauma beneath this. I see this with clients like this. I even see this with schizophrenic clients. One of the things that kind of brings schizophrenic clients into active phase symptoms and things like that is stress. Okay, so a lot of times it's a thing that goes on, and then once we kind of bipolar stress. What happens when they get super stressed? A lot of times we'll start seeing manic symptoms. This is how the body works. So in this case, we're trying to identify what is going on. And so when you bring them back to the point of the trauma, because she was trying to escape something, she didn't want to be there, so much to the point that her body allowed her mind to allow her to escape to a place that she took on a whole nother identity. And real quick, just to help you to understand, dissociative fugue is a temporary state. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it. I ain't never claimed to be the man here. So I'm sorry. Fugue is a temporary state where a person has memory loss, amnesia, and ends up in an unexpected place. They say it's like purposeful travel. So like it was intentional, like and they can become someone, a whole new identity, and not have any attachment to their former self. Okay, so let's go into this because here it is. Even though the in this acting here, this person is not the therapist, it still simulates a situation where you brought somebody back into the trauma. I think now she at this point she's become Sophie again, but when they found her, she was Grace. Or something of that nature. Anyway, she switched back to Sophie. And now the point is that Sophie, she was never comfortable being Sophie. She was Sophie in college. This is when the rape occurred. And now you're bringing me back to this place. And I'm having all these emotions and about to lose it. So this is where she is. You have to be ready for this. It's not something to be scared of, but you have to be ready for it. It's different techniques to use, but let's see what
You knew
happens.
what happened to me. You told me I would get past it.
You will. That is still true.
You said that if I looked at the bastard who hurt me in the eye and I told him how he ruined my life, that would start the healing. God damn it! There is no healing!
Will you let me take you home, okay?
I'm not going home. I'm never going home. I'm better off on the streets. Tommy took care of me. Look what you did.
Sophie, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to just throw this. Just do it. Just throw it on the floor as hard as you can. Let it out. Yes. Sophie, listen to me. He's dead. He's dead. But you're not. You're not.
It's not enough.
Hey, hello. The 2-7 just called. They found Sophie dumpster diving down on the Lower East Side.
And?
And she swore to them that her name was Grace Walker. No, an RMP is bringing her here right now.
Now, okay, so this is an important thing. And it's really unfortunate that we have to even use stuff like this, because if you talk to your supervisees, a lot of them have not had hands-on type of, situations that many times that they can share relative to therapy, because of all the confidentiality rules and things like that. Even with people who are consenting, we're not able to find a lot of times cases to where we can actually see breakthroughs being, in a sense, simulated right in, or taking place right in front of us, so that we understand how to do therapy. So a lot of times I found that it's helpful for the supervisees, even with certain things that are drama that I know are relevant to real life situations, because a lot of times this is what it's based on. Then I'll bring that to the table. So what you're going to see going on here right now, I do this same intervention in different ways, especially if someone has someone in their life that they are not able to confront about a situation. Now, in this situation, for my act, form of my activity is a forgiveness activity, and it kind of goes like, I have this. Let me see, I have it like kind of like this, in this form, and something like this is I forgive whoever. It could be mother, father, it could be multiple people for causing me to feel overwhelmed with responsibilities, for not allowing me to be heard or nor understood, or I forgive you for not understanding me, and that I don't owe you, and that your love is unconditional. I forgive you for allowing family to make me feel as though I'm worthless. I forgive myself, because a lot of times the client then hasn't been forgiven themselves for whatever has happened to them, because this trauma happened, or because you were abusive. I wasn't able to do certain things in life. So now I have to forgive myself, because I have blamed myself, but I haven't looked at what happened to me instead of what's wrong with me. So I forgive myself for believing that caring for mom and others means that I neglect me. And then moving forward, because we're changing the dynamic. So this is an example. Now, in this case, of course, you would switch it around. It wouldn't be a forgiveness thing necessarily, because we're not to the point that we could forgive. It's going to probably be necessary for the healthiest development, but we're not there yet. So we have to flip it a different way. But this is just an example of how this can be enacted, and we'll see what she does here.
The last 3 years of my life, I've been living on the street, using newspapers and garbage bags to stay warm. I let strange men use my body in exchange for food, protection, drugs. I was 18. I was supposed to be finishing my second semester of college. I lost time with my friends, my studies, my dad. You got your few measly minutes of sexual gratification, and I lost my life. I will never forgive you for what you did to me, Professor. But hopefully I can move on with help from my family and friends. I'm going to survive. Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a wrap. earlier in the conversation, that's a very effective therapy, by the way. And sometimes I'll use it like a burning, like a ceremony or something like that. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but kind of like a ceremony. So then, like that document that she has after this has been done. After you have confronted the person that you can't confront because they're dead or because they're a perpetrator or something like that, then then you would burn up the document, and this is a symbolic of I'm letting it go. Sometimes when we're not in forgiveness mode, sometimes forgiveness means I accept it. Sometimes forgiveness means that I am letting go. Okay. And that's when you do forgiveness. But with a situation like here, it's more along the lines of I accept, I'm acknowledging it, and I'm not going to let this hold me back anymore. I'm moving on. Another thing, in order for someone to move forward, they don't have to have someone to forgive them, or they don't have to have someone to apologize, because the therapy is based on them. And so, in order for them to overcome something, a lot of times the acknowledgement piece helps them to move past having to have an apology. So you may have people there that are very present, that trigger you while they're there, but doing something like this allows the client to be able to take control where they're not being triggered as much. Something earlier on, I don't know if I played it, but she said, I died when something happened. If you hear a client say that, and by the way, when a client gets overwhelmed like how she is, they're high possibility of suicide. So you want to make sure you're putting everything in place so that if that person is feeling like that they want to do something to themselves, that you got a action plan in place and they know about it. They have an action plan in place. But when she says I die, I would have to. When that happened, I died, and I think it was with the rape situation. I would want to examine with the client. Tell me a little bit more about that, because this was obviously a significant part of, and I don't even know how you would describe it, but it was a change, right? A significant change in the way that you saw the world, the way you saw yourself. And I'm just curious to know. Tell me a little bit about what changed. Tell me about what when you say I died, what was different in your life and your way of thinking and in your wanting to exist once this happened. Help me out to understand that. That's going to be an important part of the process. I gotta go. I'm way late. I hope this has been helpful. I squeezed it in. Oh man, and I'm late. We'll talk next week. Y'all take